very excited to introduce our next guest. So, Whitney Freya has really been a trailblazer in this space of soulful art since 1996. So, she's been doing this a very long time. She has 4 published books on this paradigm of creativity, her latest being 30 Days to Unstoppable, Be the Dream Made Visible. She also has an online certification program that I'm super curious to learn more about, Whitney. And she's helped more than 500 creative fit coaches worldwide. And we're really excited to have her. She also hosts retreats and trainings for women entrepreneurs and has a beautiful community around this. So, Whitney, thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome, Amy. It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, let's just dig right in. The work that I do is really around this space of mindfulness and how art can help us to build resilience. So I'm curious in your life how this has showed up. How does art foster mindfulness and presence in your daily life?
Well, it's almost funny hearing that question because it's like I feel like my whole life is because of the painting practice, because of the awareness of it's the awareness that life is actually meant to be lived as art,
Mhm.
like on a to-do list or a rat race or a ladder to climb or something like that. And then the canvas has become this portal, this mirror. It's a guide, it's a coach. It makes visible how we create our reality in each and every moment. The creative practice, the creative frequency brings us present inherently. It only knows possibility and hope, and I believe creates a most fun and colorful and amazing magical place where we can go objectively, because most of us are not full-time artists. I mean, I don't sell a lot of art because each art piece is like so meaningful. But it's where we can go to develop that inner witness, to develop mindfulness, to learn about ourselves, to choose to be differently, while we paint. Like clients that have been struggling with perfectionism learn how to manage that because they go to the canvas and they practice being wild and messy at the canvas. So it's, for me, it's completely inseparable. It is possible to paint and paint and paint and not get any of those benefits simply by not being aware. The first thing I do with my clients, with the creatively fit coaches, is remind them that all of our stories and beliefs around creativity and art and painting were infused into us, encoded into us, conditioned into us from an old paradigm, which was created by a Western capitalist system, which I don't believe in any victims. We're infinite beings. We got nothing but time. So we create these pendulum swings. And it's super cool how thoroughly they created this story that put artists on a pedestal, a very teeny tiny pedestal, right? Only some people were born with that creative artistic talent. And even then, chances of getting benefits and making a stable living are slim. And the only value that art had was as product. If someone would pay you money for your art, then you should do it. If not, forget about it and get to the real world and do the real stuff, right? So that's where most of us were raised, where we started, wherever you are in your creative journey. And there are artists, no judgment, it's all good, but there are artists that are still painting tapped into that story. I can walk by most art centers or, like community art centers and feel zero resonance because they're still teaching from that, like, here's the technique I'm going to teach you. And again, that's fine. Like, it's totally good and fine. It's just that I seem to, and when I first started, I was kind of like, where is this coming from? But I get so freaking passionate about everything that art has to offer besides the product.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, my art is still hanging all over my house because it's encoded energetically with, energies that I want to create into my life, and they're magical pieces. But I don't like the what treasure gift this practice has to offer has nothing to do with product. It is awakening this awareness, like, oh, like that's what quantum physics or Joe Dispenza or has been trying to tell us all along, right? Like what I focus on expands.
Yes.
And you can observe this at the canvas while being engaged in creative activity, which is what we're here to do. Like we're here to create. Yeah. Okay. I'll just pause now. So
I love that. Clearly, you're very passionate about this. And I am too. I think there's just so much, again, that we can learn through the practice of art and the process of creating. I just think we are innately born to create. I think that's part of our DNA. It's hardwired into us. You said a word that was really interesting to me that I want to kind of roll back to. You said to kind of have an inner witness or to witness. Talk a little bit more about that. What does that mean for you?
Okay, so I've come to observe and believe that if we don't have a connection to our inner witness, that we're operating like version 1.0 and you've got access to 9.0 out of 10, so to speak. Like your inner witness is what gives you the opportunity to observe yourself, which only when you observe yourself can you then choose. So if you don't have an understanding of your inner witness, which again, exciting because now you get to, if you don't, you're reacting to life. Like you're not choosing how you act, you're reacting. And life right now, if you're reacting, I can only imagine the emotional roller coaster. Like I've been on a news fast forever because I was just getting angry. And so I chose not to look at the news, right? So the inner witness at the canvas, you can be painting and the colors might start to mix together and you find yourself getting anxious or, oh, I'm making mud or judgmental or your perfectionist comes out. And most 99.9% of the people I work with are not professional artists. Most of them are like I was, a total wannabe, but like wanted to be an artist. Like we're attracted to the paint and the color, but we didn't think we could. So as you paint, you can observe yourself like, wow, look at me being so afraid to put the paintbrush to the canvas, right? And then once you paint, like, oh my gosh, nothing scary is happening. So actually there was nothing to be afraid of, or this mess has me really anxious. Interesting. So what I just provide is the space and the, enough so that people know to get curious about that, right? Like, oh, I'm getting awfully serious about this. Like my newest course, which is now finally the course that it's like, this is where you start, right? Like I finally have that course, like 40 courses in. The first lesson is all about playfulness. So we go to the canvas, we're taking it so damn seriously. Why?
I love that. I love that.
Just playing with color.
Yeah,
so you can
I love
witness
that.
yourself being serious, and then you hear me in the background like, let's be playful. And all the reasons why. Playful is where we learn. Playful is where you can dance with the mystery if you're wanting change in your life, but you don't feel like you have the courage in and of yourself. If you're wanting that courage can only be given to you when you're in a playful mode, because playfulness is like, let's try this, let's try that. We're curious. When we're too serious, we're in fear. We don't trust the unknown. We are resisting it, like with every fiber of our being. And so you can't leap into new experiences in your life if you are tapped into that. So anyway, so it's everything.
Yeah. No, play. I love that because play is so non-threatening, right? It's just so non-threatening. And I think, yeah, when we're taking ourselves too seriously, there's an element of fear there. That's why we're taking ourselves too seriously. And I love this idea of just jumping in with playfulness and observing, what we're experiencing. And I think, again, it's such a metaphor for life. If we can look at the container that we have, the canvas that we're painting, and just observe rather than judging ourselves or judging what's happening, just allowing the container to fill and then sort of working through it and being able to see what comes of it all. Sometimes we're just so afraid of what the outcomes. And I think you put it perfectly. We're so afraid of we want so much for the outcomes to be a certain way that we don't allow for this journey that we're on, which is so beautiful. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. And I was looking around for a first layer. So a lot of people I talk to are like, I wouldn't even know where to start. And I just have paintings everywhere. And I'm like, okay, the way we start is plain. Like we start with acrylic paints because they're it's easy to layer. Okay, I'm like, seriously, surely I have a first layer here somewhere. I mean, like these could be first layers. Like even that is a first layer. This is a bigger piece that I tore up. Okay, we're giving you all a
fantastic studio tour.
This canvas I just painted. Oh my God, so much fun. So you can see it's a bear that says I emerge. So my dad died in November, and then I traveled for 2.5 months, and I'm stepping into this new me that is done with the lesson I learned with my dad. And so I painted this. I needed a big freaking painting, people, to emerge from this lesson. So I got out this big canvas, but you see like all this, like this is like most of it is scribble. This happens, which I mean, this is not an award-winning bear or anything, but I love this bear. Mm-hmm. And this happens with many layers, right? And so this is all, it's playful. This is not serious stuff. And so when you start, oh, here's kind of a first layer. Like this is what we're talking about, right? You do this. By the time you do this, one canvas, the fear is gone, and you understand exactly what we're talking about with being able to observe yourself, because you'll learn something about yourself just doing that. And then there's no more fear of painting. So then you just get curious, right? And along the way, what you're engaging physiologically, which is most important, is you're creating neural pathways that give you permission to diverge in play at the beginning of a new project. Then you're creating the neural pathway that's open to possibilities, that's curious, that is feeling present and just aware. Like there's no end to what could happen here. Like literally, you could not come to the end of the list, right? So you're like literally bathing yourself in that energy. It's energy work, because so much of life is like, oh, I'm not, and I don't have, and I can't, and this world is crazy, and people are being bombed, and like all the things. And we have the solutions. But we're focused on the problems rather than what's possible. And when you create, you're only focused on what's possible.
Yeah, I think that the whole concept of attracting what we focus on, where we put our intention, that's what we attract, right? And I think that, again, that play and that ability to just put our attention somewhere else long enough, and I love the term that you use, bathe in it, like, because we've all had one of those baths where we just sink and we go, oh, and it's all around us, and it's so that term bathe in it, I love that, to just denote what's possible if we just move away and allow ourselves the opportunity to do something different. I love that. Tell me, the research shows up that gratitude is a huge piece for building resilience. It's massive. How has art really helped you build a sense or a practice of gratitude?
So in my book, 30 Days to Unstoppable, I offer a meditation practice that uses the sacred geometry that is Metatron's cube as the yantra, which a yantra is a visual mantra. So it's an image you can imagine in your mind's eye that also helps to bring you present, synchronize the two hemispheres of the brain, all that. And if you look up Metatron's cube, which probably if I looked around, I could find the book cover, but it has a circle at the end of each of the 6 points of the star. So Metatron's cube is the Merkaba, the two pyramids above and below. In 2D, it's the Jewish star, the 6-pointed star. And there are 6 spheres of wellness, as I was given. I was teaching, this is not my teaching, it's teaching that I just get thoughts, ideas, and meditation. And the message was, you all want to remember now how to care for yourself as vibrational beings. So we are the union of light and matter, right? We are the physical and the non-physical. So that's the two pyramids coming together. And then these 6 spheres of wellness are energies that you want to nurture and pay attention to, so that your inner outer energetic space are characterized by these 6 spheres of wellness. So love rather than fear, compassion rather than judgment, courage rather than, the timidity, alignment rather than discordance, gratitude, and presence. So gratitude is something that I am constantly in my mind saying, like, oh, I'm so grateful for this house. I'm so grateful because I bought my house at a really good time. Grateful for the sunshine, grateful for something that I am choosing to experience in my future. So like in the book, there's a process where you imagine yourself expressing gratitude for something that's occurred in your future that you're currently wanting. So powerful.
So powerful.
So at the canvas, I have underneath most of these canvases, so you can kind of see like their words right here.
Oh yeah.
There's their words. These are done with paint pens. So under most of these canvases are the words, I am grateful.
That's
because
really cool.
everything is energy. Yeah. And I want as much gratitude energy around me as possible, because if we're constantly grateful, then we're probably getting what we need.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, gratitude is like,
I learned that lesson of being grateful for things before they've even happened from my 4-year-old nephew when he was 4. He's in his 20s now, but when he was 4, his parents had gone away and we were saying prayers, and he was praying, and what he was praying was, I'm grateful that they're going to come home safe. It wasn't, please help them that they come home safe. It's thank you that they're going to be home safe.
Yeah.
And I just, and that has stuck with me for a very long time. It's just putting it out there, what we're already grateful for. And I love that underneath all of your paintings, that's there. That's going to be one thing that I take away, is I'm going to have to try that and just put words underneath the paintings of what I'm grateful for, because then they almost become like a treasure chest. As you look at them, they mean something different because all of that's underneath it as well, I think.
Well, I mean, it's literally, it's frequency.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing about this painting practice is, we're constantly painting pictures, whether literally or figuratively in our mind. We're imagining into our future. We are typically, and I'm just speaking from experience, we're typically imagining things that make us stressed or worried.
Yeah.
So you're painting pictures, you're thinking about, oh, I really want to do that. And then you start painting pictures of not having enough time, not having enough money. You're never going to get there. You don't even picture yourself there because you've already, and again, I'm speaking from experience. Yeah. I don't do that very much anymore, but I used to. Yeah. And I've trained myself not to. So likewise, when we go to the canvas, no one in my community ever goes to the canvas to paint something because they want to feel stressed or worried. They don't get inspired by their frustration and worry and anger and they're like, oh, I'm going to go paint that. They might choose to be like, okay, what do I want? And go paint that.
Yeah.
Right. But so what this does is it trains us to focus on what we want. Because exactly, law of attraction, quantum physics, everything says if you talk about what you don't want, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
The universe hears the want. Let me give you a funny example. This is a funny interview. Sorry, I don't know what I
love it.
Eaten anything today. I just realized running out here that I haven't even eaten today. And I've totally forgotten. I was at Burning Man and I rode my bike to the porta potties, and each camp has a name. So every time I rode to the porta potty, I passed the camp that said no new friends. which always made me laugh, and Camp No Fun. Okay, I could feel the energy riding by, right? As soon as I saw Camp No New Friends, I was like, I could walk in there. Like, they're a new friend camp. They're saying, come and meet us. And the Camp No Fun was a totally super fun camp. What they were doing literally is like educating us. Putting no in front of something does nothing to the
Yeah.
energy of the word. So if we're speaking to what we don't want, which I observe, when I'm teaching, especially in person, and I go around and like, how's it going? And what are you learning? And they're like, oh, well, I don't want this and I don't like this and it's to this and it's to that. And as a teacher, I'm like, okay, like that's all I can do is agree with them. So then I go, what do you want? Well, I want this to be thinner. I want this to be brighter. I want this to be more fun. I'm like, okay, now I can offer you some prompts.
Yeah.
Right. So it's fascinating to me how we limit ourselves, and the canvas creates a space that I find easier to use to become present than like meditation. I do meditate and I do walk around outside in nature a lot as well, which are all similar vein. But at the canvas, I'm doing something. So I'm distracting that monkey mind. And sometimes it takes 5 minutes or 10 minutes or, depending on how new this is to you. But eventually the colors, the subject matter, or the mud that you're creating, that captures your entire attention. Everything else melts away, which means your nervous system is getting realigned. You're coming back into homeostasis. Your mind is becoming present. And at the canvas, while you're painting in that present moment, this is where the ahas come from. That like, oh, this is what I'm going to do. I've been trying to figure that out forever, because you've detached from like this linear agenda that we have. It's like casting the net wider. So there's so many benefits to having a painting practice and just being able to say, I am creative. Yes. I am totally in touch with and know my creative self. That is a huge difference from the I'm not creative. I can't even draw a straight line. I mean, I know I have clients and I tell people like paint until you're like, oh yeah, I could paint. And they're like, then go do something else that scares you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So if you're listening to this and you're like, wow, that sounds really great, but I can't paint at all. Just let me tell you, you have so much to look forward to on the other side of making friends with that. And the fear is just excitement, and it can be replaced with curiosity. And it can also be an opportunity to witness yourself and get curious about, why do I think that some painting that I paint alone in my home is going to get rejected by people or like seen by millions of people? You know what I mean? It's like we have these fears that we chalk up as fears. I can't do that. When if we just scratch, just like we realize there's nothing to fear.
There's nothing there. Yeah. I think it's so interesting too. For me, it's about, something about paint on my hands that relaxes me. It's just getting that brush and the movement. I'm sure there's some somatic energy with it too, that movement of the body, of just brush strokes and what that does to release some of the negative energy that we have in our bodies. So yeah, whether it's watercolor or acrylic or oil or any medium, really any artistic medium, I find that something about that just movement of the body that allows some release there as well. And I think you're so right. The visual elements, like there's so much research out there on the power of visual and memory. And so if you're creating something that allows you to put out what you want into the world, you now have a visual picture to go with it, whether it's abstract or whether it's words underneath painting, or whether if it's something more visibly recognizable. There's a memory that attaches to that as well, that I think is so powerful in helping us to overcome things. Yeah.
Well, and you can in my third book, Rise Above, in the clarity chapter, there's an awesome exercise that I have used myself to really incredible success, let's just dare use
Uh-huh.
that word. The one that's coming to mind part is that when I left my marriage in 2012, my kids are 8, 10, and 12. And it was not a popular decision. So I had a lot of worry around, the whole, like, I've screwed up my kids, blah, 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 all of that. And I was shown and made to understand in a meditation that, thoughts are energy, and they are just as real as like furniture in the room. And so if I'm home while the kids are at school worrying that I've screwed up my kids and they come in after school, energetically they're surrounded by, I screwed up my kids, I screwed up my kids, I screwed up my kids. And it's like, that's all they can choose from, that's all they can surround themselves with. So it was like, okay, I've got to create a new belief. So I did a process that we call in the creatively fit coach world the soul scribble. And so you just do a quick scribble, and it's like looking for things in the clouds, and you keep turning it until it makes you think of something. And so this scribble looked like a caterpillar leading into a butterfly. And so the message I got was, they are going to heal and they are going to fly and get their wings, but you've got to allow them their process, right? Like caterpillars go into mush in the cocoon before they become a butterfly. That's a miracle. So we were kind of at the mushy, squishy stage in that process. And so I attached the image of the caterpillar and the butterfly to the screwed up my kids,
Yeah.
which transformed it into my kids are evolving. And the mantra I came up with is, my kids are going to be more consciously loved and more emotionally intelligent as a result of their parents being divorced. And they're now 20, 22, and 24. And they're completely brilliant and like so much more emotionally intelligent, and have a better relationship with their dad than they ever would have. And they've seen the real me, and it's been amazing. But that image of a caterpillar going into the butterfly, and then I would imagine like being at an event, like a graduation or something. In my middle daughter's case now, it'd be a paragliding competition
Oh my
with like a
gosh.
butterfly wing scarf around me, right? So I projected that into the future because I totally believed that that could happen. So there's so much we can do. There's so much we can do to maximize the potential that our brain has, literally. And we've heard the stories, or you're about to, like Anita Moorjani, Dying to Be Me. I just read the book by, I think it's Matt Haig, The Midnight Library, about how we have just like infinite possibilities available to us. Infinite. And it's
Yeah.
just which one we choose. So
Yeah.
like, we want to start consciously choosing, because we're living in a world that's a result of a bunch of us unconsciously choosing.
I cannot, I cannot express how much I agree with you on that. I think that there is kind of the visual image that I have is, I don't, the pinball machines, like you'd go to the arcade and the pinball machines, and that was their little ball that every time it would hit something, it would bounce and it would just, and I feel like that's kind of the world that we've been put in. We bounce off of one thing and it gets bounced to another, and we have no control over it because we're not consciously choosing certain things. And I think that making conscious acting rather than being acted upon, right? And really, we have so much choice that I think we have been misguided to sometimes believe that we don't have a lot of choice in a lot of things in our life. And I totally disagree with that. I think we have so much choice in our life, and we may not have a choice on an action, but and I know that there's a lot of conversations about this, but we absolutely can choose how that's going to impact our lives and how that's going to um, just play a role in how we're going to be intentional about it, or are we going to let it be kind of this ball in a pinball machine that we just get bounced from one thing to the next? I'm
And
curious.
another really important uh, teaching, whatever, that I always introduce right at the beginning is how we have these two different ways of looking at life. We're like a dual processor. If you watch Dr. Jill, just like Dr. Jill TED Talk,
Okay.
she's a Harvard brain researcher who had a stroke, lost her entire left brain. got it back. Anyway, amazing woman, amazing talk. But she talks about how we do have this predominantly dual process, or two ways of looking at the world. You know, it's fear or love. Course in Miracles said at any given point, you're either coming from fear or love, right? So the part of our brain that is that logical, rational, linear, result-oriented, columns, everything in its place, which is how we were raised, right? And schooled and everything else. Again, it's all fine because we get to be here right now where we're making the shift out of that phase into a new one. So that part of our mind, that part of our thinking, that part of our perceiving, that kind of computer program that is logical, linear, rational, is literally constantly taking what you experience, filing it away into like the file cabinets of the past, and then using your experience up until now to project into the future the likelihood of any potential success or, you know, safety. So if you're wanting change in your life, and what we've been taught is like you get inspired by something new, right? Like you all have seen something like, maybe I'll do that. But we've been conditioned to then go to that logical, rational part of us and say, can I do this? Right? It's like when we were kids and you go home to mom or dad, like, can I do this? Right? And that part of us, that logical, rational, linear, fear-based ego sees the world as separate, can only take your experience up until now. So if this new thing that you've just gotten lit up about doesn't exist in that file cabinet, all it can say is no.
Yeah.
That's all it can say. And likewise, the other side of us, the creative side that gets stimulated when you're doing creative activity, or you're out in nature, you're with friends, you're moving your body, is present. So in the present moment, we don't have any past, which means baggage, and we don't have any future, which means worry or stress about the future. And it's only within that present moment, when we've forgotten what we're not good at or good at, that we can receive and like integrate new ways of being. It's where the personal breakthroughs happen, right? And again, we have both.
Yeah.
Because if we were only present, I mean, what is that, like 50 first dates or something? Like, kind of a nightmare. Like we don't want to be 100% present. But for most of us, and myself, you know, still, I mean, because I live in this world less and less every day, is we are focused on and tapping into this linear, logical, rational, fear-based, past, future-oriented frequency without the present moment balancing it. And that's where the dis-ease comes from. I mean, that's literally why we're on antidepressants and, you know, all the things, because it's only in that present moment that there's hope. You know, Matthew Fox in his book Creativity said it is impossible to be creative and depressed at the same time. Literally impossible.
Yeah.
Creativity only is possibility.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, there's this imbalance that's wanting to come back into harmony.
Yeah.
You know, if you're thinking and talking and writing to understand the world, you're only in your head. And this is, you know, your point about the painting and moving it down. You know, your arms are connected to your heart. So we want to be living in this mind-heart balance, this logical, rational, balanced by the present, open, creative, loves change, loves mystery, loves the unknown. It's about coming into balance. And so, so this is why I paint, and this is why I teach painting, is because of this. Not like, here's the technique.
Right.
That comes way easier once you've let go of all the fear and you're in the present.
Yes. 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 Because you're not in judgment anymore. You're not sitting in judgment. You're just, again, being creative. You're being playful. You see yourself as a creator. And I think that that's so, it's just such a beautiful process. And I think, to your point, this emotional aspect of it, I think part of the reason why art is so helpful in some of these areas as well is it taps into that. It gets us out of our head and into our body. You know, there's something very powerful getting out of our head and into our body and getting to our heart and into our emotions that really help to balance exactly what you were saying, which is, it's a powerful place to be when the mind and the body and the spirit all kind of come together into one space, if we'll let it. But we're oftentimes so focused on the head, and to your point, we've been brought up that way. Like that's we've been brought up to think rationally and to think logically and to all of those different things. And especially I think in the US culture, oftentimes this emotional space or this space in our heart is not necessarily looked at as something that even we want to tap into.
Oh, yeah.
Um,
Well, this comes up so much, and I do a lot of like women's empowerment, women's leadership, all the things. And for any of us, I don't know what age, I'm 53, whatever age it is, but maybe 40 on for sure.
mhm.
We were raised in a home where you were not encouraged to laugh too hard, to cry too much, to express frustration, to question authority. I mean, I remember, pipe down if I got too giggly, pipe down, settle down. Whoa, Nelly,
Yeah, yeah,
settle down,
yeah.
right? Um, which is partly why I'm like this now. It's just like freedom to express anger, especially as women. Oh my
Yes.
God, we were not allowed
Mm.
to express anger, so we constricted these emotions. I also co-facilitate a women's recovery program and training, because the creativity is such a powerful it like is why a lot of women went into the recovery journey, because they're highly creative, they're highly empathic, they feel all the feels, and now is like no. And so we numbed ourselves,
Yes.
right? So like emotions are huge, and actually what emotions are meant to do, besides be in motion and not get attached to them, is they are how we are guided from that higher place that is infinite. And so learning that emotional language, which is connected to intuition, which is another thing that the people I work with experience like this huge expansion in their intuitive abilities. Because when you start like this, a lot of times, like some of you may see something here, like I just kind of saw a puppy dog, you could turn it here, but it's like you paint, one of the exercises, you paint until you see the thing.
Mm.
If you don't know what to paint, just keep playing with color. And then all of a sudden it'll be like, oh, right? Just like any of you, if anyone ever told you not to do something, and then you're like,
Yeah, I was in that camp too, much to my mother's dismay. Yeah. I
right?
love that you said the word that emotions are in motion, that the word motion is in there. And I think sometimes we forget that emotions they pass, like they come and they go, and they're intended to pass through us. And there's an energy to that, and that they serve a purpose rather than saying, oh, it's a bad thing, or I'm feeling something challenging. It's like, no, it's intended to pass through us. It's intended to tell us something and then to move through us. So I love that. I don't think I ever, like, it's right in the word, and you'd think I would have
Yeah.
thought that or saw that before, but I never have. But it's so true.
Yeah. Yeah,
That's
exactly. They're waves. They're meant to
yeah,
wave. And where they get stuck is where we have chronic pain.
yeah,
Or, in your energy body, people can see energy, they perceive dark energy, Reiki, and all that, body work. Stuck energy becomes physicalized.
yeah.
And it's emotional energy. And so that's why expressing, and for some of us, going to the canvas, putting on the headset, loud music, painting, I used to paint I am sovereign, and because I say so, on the canvas, because I was a recovering people pleaser, and like wanting to do what everybody else wanted me to do. And then it was like, oh, hell to the no, I am the queen now. And so because I say so, I don't need anyone else to tell me this is okay. Yeah, it's so fun.
Yeah. That's so funny. My cue is I need some red paint and a very large canvas. That's my sister's cue when she, that's what I say because I just want to go and for those of us that are recovering people pleasers, I think it's interesting that you get to a stage where you're like, no, I'm not gonna be stepped on anymore. I am not gonna. We're done. And you have sort of a rebirth of of who you were always meant to be, if you'll just tap into that and let that. And I think the canvas is a beautiful way for some of that stuff to come out, where those emotions come out and you remind yourself who you were meant to be, and to stand tall and who you were always meant to be. So,
well, and the cool thing is that we learn through contrast.
yeah. Oh yeah.
So if we wanted to be like these wild, expressive, independent, strong, magical women right now, we would choose to experience the opposite. We would choose to experience people pleasing, looking for permission, not trusting our own instincts and our own inner wisdom. And it's in that experience, and it's in the coming out of that, that we reclaim ourselves. So it's beautiful. And I love that. I learned about contrast right when I started painting. When I opened my art center in 96, I had never painted on a canvas. Well, I had when I was 9. That was when the art teacher, it was an abstract. And that's when the art teacher told me and my mom that drawing wasn't my thing. So that's when I started believing that I must not have inherited that artistic DNA. Right. So that is learning through contrast. I mean, art has to have contrast. Otherwise it's wallpaper.
Yeah.
There has to be contrast. There has to be contrast in your life. That's where it gets interesting. And if you read like Gene Keys or, pretty much anything, it's you have to go down to jump up thing. Right. So all of this is like encoded in this creative practice. It's inherent, and it meets you where you are to kind of fill in those gaps, to make you whole. And it's you making you whole. It's not anybody else. So
that's something that we forget, is that, just like in a beautiful painting, you don't see the dark unless it's contrasted with the light, right? You don't see the light unless it's contrasted with the dark. And I think our lives are like that. We have to experience the cold. We have to experience the heat. Everything has an opposite that helps us to better appreciate, those different spaces in our lives. So I had not thought about that in terms of like color and art, but it's true. It's so true. We don't see, if you don't have the shadow, the light isn't as interesting. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, it's pretty magical being able to develop an unconditionally loving relationship with yourself, and then with your life, can happen at the canvas. Way easier, way cheaper than other options.
Yes. Well, Whitney, this has been absolutely fantastic. I loved our discussion. I love your bear back there. I just keep looking at the bear and thinking,
I know, I love him so much.
Myself a bear. I love that. And just really enjoyed our conversation. I know that those that attend are just going to have a great time listening to your advice and where can people find you if they want to get to know more about you and your work?
Yeah, WhitneyFreya.com. I'm the only Whitney Freya right now on the planet. So Whitney Freya, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, like I'm there.
Everywhere.
WhitneyFreya.com will get you everywhere.
Fantastic. Well, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We appreciate you being here.
Thank you, Amie. Bye, everyone.